们上的 password 是什么？
叶林 to C dollar，因为我总是被他 kick out，所以万一叶林是以前
Hey, Thomas, you're off mute.
Yeah. So today, Jeff mentioned that he could not attend this call. So we'll continue discussing about get it as we stop like the OCP command as we discussed as we started the discussion last week. I'm going to share my screen. And last week we stopped at this point and we started discussing why we wanted to create a separate command from for receiving an hit in from an attester. What were the motivation behind? We can a little bit resume, give a summary what was discussed last week. Last week we say that OCP is working on some standardization and attestation, is creating a profile for attestation report like NIT, is creating commands and is creating solution for doing device identity provisioning, and Jeff is driving that. And but we have still key challenges, and some of the key challenges we say that SPDM lacks first-class support for those features. And the point is that even if you start asking the MTF to include those features, then you still will have a problem of fragmentization when you see that a version will support a feature and another version will not support the feature. So we decided to say, well, we can go and create like a list of OCP commands that can extend the SPDM support as vendor-defined command for SPDM, and SPDM supports that. And this will solve problem for this will solve the problem of fragmentation over SPDM. Will allow also a smooth transition because user or operator that were using SPDM features from legacy SPDM feature, they can still use it, and also would allow support for TSM devices, which they have not adopted SPDM. So even if we are solving this problem perfectly over SPDM, we still will have a portion of a tester, which really matter in terms of our confidential computing. They will not use this. So what we decide is say, okay, let's try to create some command from OCP for attestation, and then we can create as, since SPDM is perhaps the most used protocol for attestation within OCP, regardless, we can also provide as OCPs a sort of binding for those commands for SPDM. And the binding will be through SPDM vendor-defined command, which is a specific SPDM command, not to confuse with any NVMe stuff like we discussed last time. This is an SPDM command that allow to extend the protocol with extra commands, and OCP could extend the protocol. One specific command I would love and I was proposing to add was the get it. The get it command will allow an operator to retrieve a hit without using a measurement and perhaps like clogging on a previous measurement block. Like initially we thought and we discussed as it made sense to having it retrieved over measurement blocks and perhaps F0, and which was reserved anyway. But then like the problem statement comes like when you want to use the standard. I was starting thinking about it. When you want to use the standard report format which SPDM described, and what is going to happen that you're going to have either if you want to support legacy commands as well for legacy operator, you will retrieve everything together, an it format and an it format in the same standard format. Also, since the it has already assigned scheme, you will basically have this whole overhead of L1, L2 transcript when it's not required for the IT. It's not strictly required because you can authenticate the IT irrespective of SPDM. So this was get it. We decided, we thought it was a good candidate that could be used for these commands. And that's where I went to say how this get it can work. But before going there, I want to stop and I want to make sure that everyone is following and there are no
Yeah, hi
questions on
Fabrizio.
regard.
I do have a question. So
Sure.
I think I raised it last time, but I'll try to raise it again. So in a different way. So you know, PCIe extend its security you know, security format to TDISP, right? And the TDISP would allow you to do all different kind of measurement collection from the device, right? Including CMA for, you know, measurement and authentication, including, you know, collecting the measurements, and there's various functions that is covered by the TDIS protocol.
Yes.
And one of them is SPDM, right? Which is collecting the measurement from the device, and then once it's collected from the device, all the measurement is the attestation request will, well, the SOC would, you know, I mean, have all the measurements it needs, including the device, and then it will send it to the verifier. So I'm just trying to think if I understand what you're trying to do correctly. So is that get eat a way to or a command that's sitting on the top of that protocol above the TLP layer, the transport
No,
layer?
no, you are thinking too much about PCIe. PCIe like is underneath. This OCP will not even see the PCIe protocol.
I know, that's
This,
what I'm saying. So it's
yeah,
above the TLP layer, right? It's
yeah,
above
yeah,
the transport
yeah.
layer
It's
packet.
about
So it's
the SPDM already does that. SPDM like has a bounding for the DOE, for example, to go over PCIe, but this is not going to change. What we are going to bind, we are going to bind over SPDM. So you have your DOE, on top of DOE, you have an SPDM, and on top of SPDM, you are extending the command with the get it, but this is not going to change the transport layer underneath.
but what would get E do that SPDM doesn't do?
Oh,
What
it
would
would basically like SPDM has a way to do get measurements, and the get
right?
measurement doesn't is not prescriptive of the format of those measurements. In get measurement, you can put whatever you want and in whatever format you want. And the it, what we are solving with it is trying to create a converged format which will allow a verifier to have an easy mapping with the quorum. Like when you retrieve a SPDM measurement, measurement block 1, measurement block 2, measurement block 3, then the verifier need to have like a mapping, customized mapping, which can be different from each vendor, what measurement 1 mean, what measurement 2 mean, what measurement 3 mean. Instead, with the EAT, the way we, and I will present probably later or in another session, like the EAT profile, we are, and this year there is a link, it's public, the EAT profile, we are working with OCP. The EAT profile we are working with OCP encapsulate the measurement in a format that is the same as the quorum uses. So imagine a verifier that has the quorum, and the quorum is used by the verifier as way to get reference measurement. So you know that, oh, I need to verify the bootloader, my operating system, and my this other fuse should be in this value. And each of the measurements and each of these measurement in the quorum are mapped as target environments, right? Those are the
Mhm.
target environment need to be verified. Those target environment are mapped usually in a semantics called a reference triple array. The reference triple array is the way why how you as a vendor will describe the acceptable state for those measurements into the quorum. Now, if you have your attester reporting those measurements in the same format, then a standard verifier that doesn't know you as a vendor, how you do this mapping with measurement block 1, measurement block 2, measurement block 3, can really can do the appraisal policy, means can verify those measurements against the quorum without needing an extra logic, which can be bothersome and not scalable when your data center will have 30, 40 devices to deal with.
Okay, there are some industry partners that are working on. Probably you're familiar with it, right? The CMW, the concise.
Yes, the
So
CNW is a message wrapper.
correct, but the purpose of that message wrapper seems similar to the way that get eat is trying to do, which is basically allow. I'm just trying to raise a point. Correct me if I'm mistaken here, but it seems to be a way to to um, so that verifiers, I mean, actually it applies to, actually just before this meeting, I mean, like an hour ago, I was going over the spec and it applies to all different kind of messages that, that are, to all kinds of messages that exchange in an attestation architecture, in a RATS architecture, actually, including, endorsement, including verifier, including a tester and everything beyond. So I don't know, it could be something that's very similar, it could be something different, but I think they are trying to standardize that approach. So maybe.
So CNW, let me interrupt you here. CNW is a conceptual message wrapper, is basically a wrapper. And RATS is using the CNW, is coming up with the CNW. And the RATS also created the IT, created two things, created the IT, which became an RFC, and CNW, which is still a draft, if I'm not wrong. So it's not that it's, RATS will
Yes,
not step
CNW is a draft, but it's going into an RFC.
Absolutely. But they serve two different purposes. So the IT purpose is to provide an attestation token. The CNW purpose is to provide a wrapper. So imagine that you have multiple attesters that you want to get an attestation report from. You have a lead attester and you have a sub-attesters, right? So you have this global you need to report to a verifier not only attestation from your device, but you have also other devices,
Sure.
which include a root of trust. So the problem the CNW is trying to solve is to create an authenticated signed collection of those evidence. So they mean that if you have a lead attester and a sub-attesters, a couple sub-attesters, they need,
Yes.
and the lead attester need to report evidence to the verifier. Then the lead attester will take the evidence from the sub-attester from itself and wrap together into the CNW. But the CNW, the entry of the CNW most likely, and perhaps is an IT. Like, so you have an IT, and then you have a CNW on top of the IT. And this is going to happen only when you have like more
Multiple.
yes, multiple
Right.
attesters.
Okay.
Then
Yeah,
the IT itself doesn't solve the problem of standardization on the format of the measurement, because the IT what does provide some standard claims, provide a signing scheme, which is great, and that's why we use Crit, because it provides a signing scheme, but it doesn't provide the format of those evidence. So what we are trying to solve here is say, hey, we wanna also a way that a verifier can easily figure out how mapping the reference measurement with the evidence. And if you think about it, TCG solved the other part of the problem 1 year or a couple years ago, creating a standard called a DICE concise evidence mapping for SPDM, and created these semantics called a concise evidence, which basically is the same as the reference report. You say, oh, we are solving the one-to-one mapping problem with Corim using the concise evidence. However, we try to standardize this concise evidence, and we realize that, but we still have this quote SPDM problem. What I mean SPDM problem is that the SPDM, like somehow the SPDM require a signing mechanism. The SPDM signing mechanism requires the verifier to know a lot about SPDM protocol in order to authenticate the measurement. So the IT would allow like an easy representation of the signing scheme that they will decouple the verifier and will allow the verifier to be SPDM agnostic. And that's why the getIT command can be sent here in this picture over SPDM, but even between like other attesters which are not using SPDM as a standard protocol.
Yeah, thanks for the explanation. Yeah, that sounds good to me. That's understandable.
Hey, Fabrizio, I may be asking a stupid question. Why not map this to one of the measurement index values? Would it not make sense? Or maybe you have covered it, maybe I'm asking.
Oh, so the eating, so there was a previous solution we thought, and I think it could still be compatible. I don't know if there is anyone from the NTF in this call, but we agreed to use the F0 measurement in the like get measurement. That is still a valid solution. I don't think that is wrong to map it as a measurement block. The concern we discussed about using the measurement block were, okay, if it could be sent over a measurement block only, how do we solve the problem for TSMs, like they are not using SPDM at all? Also, how do we solve the problem? Imagine that an SPDM, like, you know, that you have all these measurement blocks. Like when you introduce something, one of the more important things is to keep backward compatibility. And I'm sure there are a bunch of devices, a tester and verifier out there that still use the measurement block number for mapping one-to-one measurement with some custom way to mapping those measurements to the quorum, which is still work. It's a functional way to do it. It's just like there is less it's less scalable, but works pretty well. And we don't want to disrupt what they are doing. And what is going to happen the moment you want to have both, support both things like ET at F0 and all other measurement from 1 to 10 or 1 to 20, for legacy, when your verifier will get all the measurement, will get both and will not know what to do with a legacy verifier with this it. So if we create a separate route, will allow basically a smooth transition for operator and say the operator who wants to use a legacy way will keep doing get measurement. The operator will want to adopt it, will have a separate command which didn't exist before and can get the it.
Okay, makes sense.
Fabrizio, can you expand it a little bit on the problem statement where you say CPU do not adopt?
Oh, it's I think like I think it's pretty like, as for now it's clear that there are TSMs like T Security Manager, like TDX CCA. They are not using right now SMP. They are not using SPDM as a message protocol for attestation. And so instead to force them to use SPDM, we say why don't we?
I'm familiar with CCA. What do you mean by not? Oh, you mean
SPDM,
the ARM definition of the verification attestation format is not compliant to SPDM?
Well, then saying that CCA will use will use SPDM to communicate between the TSM to DSM, but I don't think that if a tenant, an external verifier, wanna get the Realm report over CCA, will get it over SPDM.
That's a profile.
No, but what's the protocol? It's not an SPDM protocol, right? I'm not super familiar with CCA, so I don't have the answer here. But what I know right now that they are not using SPDM protocol to get the to get an attestation report for the gas VM.
I don't know who else is working on the ARM CCA on this forum. But your next page, where you have a diagram that show the remote, this is the right page. So you're saying that between the So between the VM and the hypervisor, so you're right, ARM defining its own API.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that is what get it fixed, basically. This was the innovation here, to use this get it across all the standards, regardless whether it's SPDM or not SPDM. I'm not saying not to use SPDM. I say keep using SPDM, but if you are not using, you will still have the support. Versus saying, oh, ARM CCA, for doing this part of the protocol, you need to use SPDM, which might be more complicated.
But it's quite a bit of a change. Do you mean the local verifier in the VM communicate with hypervisor by setting up a SPDM session?
Yeah, I don't think that is going to happen. I don't know if this is the direction we want to do it. We want to go. I think it's much like, it's going to be very disruptive to ask for this change. While just introducing a new command which can run on the existing transport layer that CCA or TDX or SMP have it, will be much, much, much easier to adopt by everyone, and still achieving interoperability.
So if you mark so the OCP get it would be the local verifier over whatever API channel or whatever transport between the local VM and the hypervisor, right? It's
yes.
Not okay.
Yes, we don't know what is it. I don't know personally what is
it.
it.
It's an API call. It's a hyper call. Right?
Yes.
Sorry. It may not be a hyper call, but yeah, it's a standard API call between. I think it's a Realm Realm service interface call.
Okay. So yeah, but that's the overall goal, to try to make this get it more broad and not dependent on the protocol. So to be used by different protocols.
But your diagram seem to indicate all the red channels are SPDM channels?
No, I say secure session channel. It means that you will have for sure, even the realm, a secure session between your verifier and your guest VM and your TSM, right? Because you don't want to, you want a confidential channel that the hypervisor cannot snoop. That's what I meant.
Because you color them the same, I thought they are all SPDM. Sorry, my bad.
No, my bad. That I created this confusion. No, you're. So that was basically it. And this call, unless there are
no, Fabrizio, there's one more minor thing.
Okay, go ahead.
What was blocked by your diagram? It says key benefit, preserve attestation semantics.
Oh,
transport, right?
Yes, it just say preserve attestation semantic irrespective of the transport layer. I will fix the diagram. I don't know why it got cut. It means it say irrespective of the transport layer.
Okay.
So you don't care what is SPDM or not.
Sorry, a question. So it's sending a secure session always. Do you still need a signature on the it?
So that's a very good question. First of all, I put a secure session, but you don't really always need a secure session to pass in it. Like, for example, it's like I mentioned here, the secure session is only required in certain cases. For example, like you want to make sure that the seat come from this device and not has been not replayed by anyone else. So you basically want to make sure that your privilege that you will allow you will confer to the device upon attestation will be transferred, will be given over the secure session you are using. So there are some reasons why and why not. This is above, like beyond this conversation, when we will not need a secure session. But yes, like the fact that it's signed, it will still be beneficial because, like, for example, a remote verifier, which is going here, wanna even if there is a secure session all the way, there is a secure session here, secure session here, secure session here, perhaps the remote verifier will only still accept evidence that are signed. But if you have all the way a secure session from year to year, you know that is a trusted path. Yes, that secure channel is redundant, but you don't always get this information. For example, you might have a BMC which goes like as a remote verifier, going somewhere else, and you might not have a secure session there, and you wanna use this, you wanna leverage this signing schema of it.
Okay, thanks.
Fabrizio, I just realized you're asking quite a bit of a change, right? I mean, I saw Stu Yoder here. He represents ARM. It means you're adding a new API between the local verifier and the hypervisor?
No, I'm not asking this to change a new API between. I'm just saying I'm not asking any change here, a big change here. I'm just saying that to retrieve it for the TSB to retrieve it across protocol, you can use this get it command. Now you can use this get it command here. You can use this get it command here or get it command over here. That's what I'm trying to represent with this picture.
So the get it OCP get it between local verifier and the hypervisor is optional or
No,
mandatory?
it's like if you want to be OCP compliant, you will include this new API, your TSM, your CCA engine that ARM uses, so like the firmware will export this API that can be encapsulated over like some already existing protocol for the remote verifier, the local verifier to retrieve evidence from the TSM.
Right. That one is less controversial. Between the local verifier, the guest VM and the hypervisor, are you suggesting a new API called get it, or is it optional?
Yeah, I think I don't know if it's optional or not, depend on whether like someone wants to adopt it or not, and just proposing that we can converge using this API. Yeah, whether it's optional or not is a product decision, but I would suggest to have a converged way to retrieve this attestation report.
But if this is to happen, you need to convince ARM, convince Intel, convince AMD.
I'm just saying, I don't know if I have to convince everyone. I'm just saying here, I'm just suggesting here that there will exist this protocol and this new API, which will be pretty much easy, like, and I want to go over the API to implement and could be implemented over your already existing protocol to retrieve the attestation report. That was my whole point. I know I don't think I should go to Intel or ARM or AMD to say, hey, you should adopt this. I just think that this is a way to do it, and if you want to adopt it, this will improve interoperability. And the way I was going here, the way this API will work, basically we can get, you just need a command code, and if you look at I use command code 2 because device identity provisioning that we presented few sessions ago already use a command, already is using this mechanism of having like vendor-defined command over SPDM. In that case, it was only defined over SPDM, but you already have a OCP vendor-defined command with command code 1, and this command instead could have command code equal to announce, assigner slot ID, and thus you get your response, and the it token will be encoded per OCP profile. So we will have this OCP profile, which we are working on, and perhaps in one of the future sessions we can present here and getting more into that one.
But Fabrizio, I'm still stuck on a system issue. So
Okay.
your slide makes perfect sense for SPDM, requester and the responder.
Okay.
However, between a local verifier and the hypervisor, where there doesn't exist a SPDM session.
Yeah, you don't need a session. You just need to encapsulate. You will have a protocol, right? Whatever. It doesn't need to be SPDM. It can be whatever transport channel you have it. You have some high-level API to call into the CCA, right?
Maybe Stu, you can. Stu is from ARM, yeah.
Yeah, I guess as far as the ARM CCA APIs, I guess I'm not that familiar with that part of our security stack. So I can get answers there, but I don't know off the top of my head what the existing API is. But I do know, I mean, there are several different attestation tokens that like there's a realm attestation token that I think the guest VM can get. I just don't know what the API is to get it.
Yeah, and this is going to be an extra API that will be sent over the protocol that already exists. So what I would assume, there exists a way for the guest VM to call into CCA. Now, the way what you want to use it, use the same protocol that you use to call into the CCA and extend with this extra command to retrieve the hit. That's it.
Thank you. Okay, now it's clear. Yeah. Thank you, Stu.
Sure.
Thank you.
So, and this is gonna work like forget it request. I think that I thought to make it very straightforward that you have just you will have definitely a command code, a nonce, and a signer slot ID, which with the SPDM could be mapping to your SPDM certificate slot, and you will retrieve like a response which is gonna be success or error. Very, very, very easy. And then a need token, which is formatted the way we are profiling for OCP. And if you want to do the SPDM binding, that's what you're going to do on top of that. You're going to send your vendor-defined request for SPDM, which already exists. I think it's command FE. And then you have a standard ID 4, which is IANA, and then you use vendor ID 42623, which means OCP. And then you encapsulate this command here, get it request over this one. Same for the response. The response will have standard ID 4, vendor ID 42623, which means OCP, and you will and the attester will encapsulate the response over this vendor-defined response payload. And the response will be basically this get it response. Will this any other question? That's what I had for this topic today.
Can you say more about, again, why not standardize this at DMTF? I mean, why is this OCP? Because, for example, this seems potentially useful in other non-hyperscale contexts. Like, I mean, maybe you have a PC client type system that is doing attestation and, where you have similar problems. But I think if it gets the OCP label, it just seems like it's more maybe viewed as, okay, this is a hyperscale protocol or something like that. So why wouldn't it make sense to standardize it at DMTF?
So here is the thing, like that's what the problem of DMTF, we can potentially ask DMTF to adopt this as a first class command for 1.5, but the problem is that then you're gonna have, first of all, from SPDM itself, you're gonna have a vendor request. Imagine that how you wanna roadmap this, and then you're gonna have saying, hey, if you will have this support only if you have perhaps SPDM 1.5, for example. All right, so perhaps your requester is using still like 1.4 because that's last time that your SPDM protocol was updated in your data center because SPDM 1.4 introduced the PQC support, and so that's the last time you wanted to do it. So not everyone could use this feature. Then second thing is that if you want to have like TSM, so you want to try at least to persuade, I don't know how much we can be convinced, can be influencing or not to them, persuasive or not to those standards, like we say, hey, if it's not an SPDM command, then why not you TDX, for example, not to pick up on Intel, say, can implement this feature. That was the reason why we wanted to abstract from SPDM. But I see the
Right.
point in saying about the PC client for TC. I don't know how, honestly, I don't know how OCP can be able to influence the client path too.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
No problem. Any other question?
I see you use the same command ID for request and response.
Oh, let me go back. The command code, you're meaning, or this
Right,
one?
right. Yeah, the command code.
Yeah,
Should be different, right?
Oh yeah,
the fact. Yeah, we can make it. Yeah, you can. That's a valid point. Yes, this was this but was a bug. Yes, we can make it. We can make it different. We can perhaps use the same format of SPDM to have a bit to indicate there is a response. Very valid point. I will make a fix to that. Thanks. Any other question? All right, going once. I don't have any other. This was only what I had for today. Jeff mentioned he could not make it this meeting, so I don't have any other topic to discuss for today. So we can perhaps close this earlier unless you don't have any other questions.
I have a general question. My name is Jitendra from Western Digital.
Okay.
I have seen folks asking for recordings and the slide decks of these Zoom meetings, but looks like that information is not available or nobody knows the answer.
Yeah.
Anyone?
No, I don't know exactly where are all those recordings, but
Yeah.
I can ask Jeff.
Okay.
Where to get those.
Yeah.
But I can definitely send to this slide deck. I will correct this command code part, and I can definitely send the slide decks to the work group so everyone can look at it.
About the recordings, it directly goes to the OCP servers, and last time we had asked for it, so they had said, I mean, it won't be available much, and so it's hard to send. That's what the email we received. So, but I certainly think that we need to ask them that to allocate server space to make it available. I mean, there's no point we recording it and they're not making it available.
If it's anything like what happens with the OCP storage work group, there's one, I think it's one or two guys with OCP that they get all the recordings and they don't post them to YouTube until they like kind of get back to them. And there's always a backlog. So we're always just waiting for them to release them.
I guess my understanding is that there was a recent or change, I don't know exactly how recent, where now, like, because of the number of recordings from different work groups, the central OCP people can't do it anymore. And so they're basically, like in our case, Jeff would need to, I mean, he has access to the recordings that would need to post it. I mean, there are links on the wiki, up through May of this year, but nothing after May. But I think it's on Jeff or Brian from Microsoft to get them posted because they have access as the admins for this group.
Yeah, I certainly understand it takes some work and time, and maybe some other volunteers can also pitch in and help, and it's understandable not to burden one or two people for everything. Yeah.
True, and certainly it's being saved on the Zoom servers, so they are available. Yeah, just about posting them.
Okay, I will email Brett also. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if someone could send a link on how to access those on the Zoom servers, that would be very useful. I wasn't aware that was possible to get to.
I don't think it's accessible by everyone. I think maybe only the host, whoever posted on that day. Yeah.
Got it. I had one final question for Fabrizio.
Okay.
When will we see a specification document?
Okay, that's a very valid question. Here you have at least the first draft on the IT profile is here. You have the draft of the IT profile here, but the specification document for get it should be coming soon. And I don't have a timeline for now, but I can give you an answer for the next call.
Okay, that sounds great.
No problem. Thank you. All right, we can call it a day today because there is no other topics. Thank you everyone for joining.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Bye.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.